Take joy, O Florence, for you are so great, your wings beat over land and sea, your fame resounds through hell. Among the thieves I found 5 citizens of yours who make me feel ashamed, and you are raised by them to no great praise. But if, as morning nears, we dream the truth, it won't be long before you feel the pain that Prato to name but one desires for you. Were it already come, it would not be too soon, but let it come, since come indeed it must, and it will weigh the more on me the more I age. We left that place, and on those stairs that turned us pale when we came down, my leader now climbed back and drew me up, and as we took our solitary way among the juts and crags of the escarpment, our feet could not advance without our hands. I grieved then, and now I grieve again, as my thoughts turn to what I saw. And more than is my way, I curb my powers, lest they run on where virtue fails to guide them, so that if a friendly star, or something better still, has granted me its boon, I don't misuse the gift. As when a peasant resting on a hillside, in the season when he who lights the world least hides his face from us, at the hour when the fly gives way to the mosquito, he sees fireflies that glimmer in the valley, where perhaps he harvests grapes and ploughs his fields. With just so many flames, the 8th crevasse was everywhere aglow, as I became aware once I arrived where I could see the bottom. And as the one who was avenged by bears could see Elijah's chariot taking flight when the horses reared and rose to heaven, but made out nothing with his eyes except the flame alone ascending like a cloud into the sky, so each flame moves along the gullet of the trench. And though none reveals the theft, each flame conceals a sinner. Rising to my feet to look, I stood up on the bridge. Had I not grasped a jutting crag, I would have fallen in without a shove. My leader, when he saw me so intent, said, "These spirits stand within the flames. Each one is wrapped in that in which he burns." "Master," I replied, "I am the more convinced to hear you say it. That is what I thought, and had it in my mind to ask you this. Who is in the flame so riven at the tip it could be rising from the pyre on which Eteocles was laid out with his brother?" He replied, "Within this flame find torment Ulysses and Diomed. They are paired in God's revenge as once they earned his wrath. In their flame they mourn the stratagem of the horse that made a gateway through which the noble seed of Rome came forth. There they lament the wiles for which, in death, Deidamia mourns the death of Achilles still, and there they make amends for the Palladium." "If they can speak within these flames," I said, "I pray you, master, and I pray again, and may my prayer be 1,000 strong, do not forbid my lingering a while until the twin-forked flame arrives. You see how eagerly I lean in its direction." And he to me, "Your prayers deserve much praise. Therefore I grant it, but on condition that you hold your tongue. Leave speech to me, for I have understood just what you want. And since they were Greeks, they might disdain your words." Once the flame had neared, when he thought the time and moment right, I heard my leader speaking in this way. "O you who are twinned within a single fire, if I have earned your favour in whatever measure, when in the world I wrote my lofty verses, then do not move away. Let one of you relate just where, having lost his way, he went to die." And the larger horn of that ancient flame began to murmur and to tremble, like a flame that is worried by the wind. Then brandishing its tip this way and that, as if it were the tongue of fire that spoke, it brought forth a voice and said, "When I took leave of Circe, who for a year or more beguiled me there, not far from Gaeta, before Aeneas gave that name to it, not tenderness for a son, nor filial duty toward my aged father, nor the love I owed Penelope that would have made her glad, could overcome the fervour that was mine to gain experience of the world and learn about man's vices and his worth. And so I set forth upon the open deep, with but a single ship and that small band of shipmates who had not deserted me. One shore and the other I saw as far as Spain, Morocco, the island of Sardinia, and the other islands set into that sea. I and my shipmates had grown old and slow before we reached the narrow strait where Hercules marked off the limits, warning all men to go no farther. On the right hand I left Seville behind, on the other I had left Ceuta. O brothers, I said, who in the course of 1,000 perils at last have reached the west, to such brief wakefulness of our senses as remain to us, do not deny yourselves the right to know, following the sun, the world where no one lives. Consider how your souls were sown. You were not made to live like brutes or beasts, but to pursue virtue and knowledge." With this brief speech I had my companions so ardent for the journey I could scarce have held them back, and having set our stern to sunrise, in our mad flight we turned our oars to wings, always gaining on the left. Now night was gazing on the stars that light the other pole, the stars of our own so low they did not rise above the ocean floor. 5 times the light beneath the moon had been rekindled, and as often been put out, since we began our voyage on the deep, when we could see a mountain, distant, dark and dim. In my sight it seemed higher than I had ever seen. We rejoiced, but joy soon turned to grief, for from that unknown land there came a whirlwind that struck the ship head on. 3 times it turned her, and all the waters with her. At the 4th our stern reared up, the prow went down, as pleased another, until the sea closed over us.